Alright, so I'm going to show you how I make video like this, where you've got obviously your main view here, but you've also got your rear view picture-in-picture, you got your rider view picture-in-picture, and then you got your telemetry, where you are on the track, what your speed is, and what your lap times are. Alright, so here's the setup I have on my bike. For the front and the rider view, I'm using an Insta360. This is an X3. For the rear view, I've got a GoPro mounted on a tail. And then for the data, I'm just using a RaceBox Mini. I've just got Velcro tape, and I just keep it inside the tail, Velcroed in. If you wanted, it's also got like a camera mount there, so you could probably drill a hole in the tail and do like a screw setup if you wanted to like mount it on the top, not worry about it having to drop off. But it seems to work just fine inside the tail section, so that's where I use it. So I got all my files ready. We got the GoPro footage, which I've already renamed. I tend to rename my files something that's easily readable, that I know what it is. If it gets stuck in the wrong place, I know this is the 411 session 3 video, my rear view, which is GoPro. We've got the GoPro video, and then we've got our two Insta360 videos, and then we've got our RaceBox data. And I've got this in GPX. You can download it in CSV as well. The reason I don't is because for some reason in CSV it tends to rob me of the last lap for lap times. I don't know why, but in GPX that doesn't seem to happen, so GPX it is. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to open up Insta360 Studio and get our front and rider views. So we've got Insta360. We're just going to take our two videos here from the Insta and drag and drop them. Make sure our aspect ratio is what we want. So we're going to start with the front. You can just drag the screen around to get the front about where you want it. And then what I like to do is just kind of bounce around a little bit, see some different shots, some turns. There's a turn. And am I seeing what I want to be seeing? And yeah, I think so. This is good enough. So now we're just going to export this front view. So we click our export. Again, I'm going to name it something readable, so that if it gets misplaced, I know what it is. It's that date, session 3, and this is the front view. And we want to make sure we're recording in our session 3 folder, and we start the export. One of the reasons I'm using MacBook, and when I start putting together the videos, I'm going to be using iMovie, which is just a standard software that comes with MacBook. The reason I switched to the MacBook was just because it had a lot faster video processing time than my PC did. So I got the MacBook. The iMovie does just great for what I needed it to do. So as we're exporting, if you go here to the task center, you can see how long it's going to take. We're 15% of the way through. This goes through this pretty darn quick. All right, now for the rider view, if you flip it around, this gets a nice wide shot of what's going on, but it's missing my head. And so what I like to do, I want to see my vision as well. Am I looking at what I'm supposed to be looking at? So if I flip the aspect ratio, then I can get a much better view of what's up here. I lose a little bit on the sides, but for the most part I can tell, am I getting my elbow out or not? And same thing, Now I'm just going to go ahead and flip around a bit and see, am I seeing what I want to be seeing? And yeah, that looks pretty good. So we'll go ahead and export this one. Rename it something that makes sense. We'll call this one Session 3 Rider View. All right, so now we got all our videos. We got front view video, rider view video, rear view video, and of course our telemetry. So we're going to get into iMovie and start making our picture-in-pictures. So obviously we need our front view. And we're going to also go ahead and start with the rider view as our first picture-in-picture. Now we're going to have to do separate videos. And this, you end up processing like 5 times, which again is why I'm really happy with the iMac, with this MacBook. With the old PC, it would take almost an hour every time I wanted to process videos. And so you had your first, you had to do your front view, you had to do your rider view, you had to do your first picture-in-picture, your second picture-in-picture, add your telemetry, and then render that video. That's 5 different videos. It was literally an all-day event just to create one video. Now with the MacBook, it really takes just a few minutes to do each of these videos. I can process an entire day's worth of video, 6 to 8 sessions, in just a couple hours. So we're going to take our front view. That's going to be our base video. And then our rider view is going to be our picture-in-picture. So we're going to drop this on top. Now the nice thing about both these being Insta360 videos is they're already synced up. You don't have to do anything as far as syncing them goes. We are going to go ahead and detach the audio from the rider view. Since they are synced, it doesn't really matter, but we don't need 2 audios, so we're just going to have 1 audio. And then our rider view is overlaid right now. We need that to be picture-in-picture. So in iMovie, you just click this box here, drop down, picture-in-picture. You get you a tiny little picture. We're going to stick this down in the corner. We're going to make that a little bigger so we can actually see what's going on. Something about like that. Okay, so if we leave it like this, one problem is as I'm turning left, the picture-in-picture is going in the direction. We don't want that. I'm going right. It's accurate, but it's distracting. So what we want to do is have this video flipped the other direction, reversed. So we select our video, make sure it's highlighted, go over here to our filters, and we're going to pick a filter that's called flipped, and that's it. Now when we look at it, rider and bike are going about the same direction. It's just a lot less distracting to watch it that way. So we're good with that. Now we'll go ahead and export this and create our first picture-in-picture video. To export in iMovie, you go to File, Share, File, and we're going to rename this again something readable that we know what it is if it gets put in the wrong place. And we're just going to call this Insta PIP. That's our picture-in-picture with our Insta cameras. And make sure that we're recording in the right folder. And up here is our status. And it shows us we got 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes for that to process. So much better than an hour for sure. I'll see you in 3 minutes. All right, so 3 minutes later, and we got our Insta PIP video. And that's going to become our new base video, and we're going to overlay the rear view in that. So go back to iMovie. There's no reason to save any of this stuff, so we just go ahead and delete them. Get rid of this. Delete the media. Yep. Delete the media. Yep. And now we'll take our Insta PIP and add that in. And then we're going to do our GoPro, which is our rear view. So we'll add that in. Now, because these are two different cameras, they're not synchronized, and we got to synchronize them. And there's a very simple trick when it comes to synchronizing video, and that is simply to clap or bang on something, make some loud noise. Gives you a spike in the audio. All you have to do is align the spikes in the audio, and your videos are synchronized. I forget to do this 10 out of 10 times. I don't ever think about it until I'm sitting here trying to synchronize my video. So I'm going to show you how to do it visually, which is how I usually end up having to do it. So we're going to take our base video and drop it. And the best way that I've found to do it visually, the most easy thing to line up on, is crossing the finish line. So we're going to go out and fast forward the video until we get up to the finish line. Turn 13, 14, 15, and here comes our finish. There's our finish line. Bam. We go over it, and we see it popping out the back of us. So right there, basically we're crossing the finish line. Now, when we sync these up, we may very well end up being a frame or two off. It's not going to make any difference. You're not going to notice being off by a frame or two. You're not going to notice it here. You're not going to notice it with the data overlay. So don't worry about it too much if you're not exactly on. So now that we've got that, we want to add a marker in our video so that we know where that is. That's us crossing the finish line. And now we'll add in our GoPro. And we do the exact same thing. We're going to go through and fast forward until we cross the finish line for the first time. Turn 13, 14, 15, and here comes the finish line. Bam, there it is, pops right out. All right, so that's us in front of the finish line. That's us over the finish line. One of those two frames, probably doesn't matter which one you choose. And we'll do the same thing. We're going to mark that video. And now both our videos are marked. Now, our GoPro video is on top of our base video, and we can't move the base video. And you'll notice our marker for the GoPro is out in front. And we can't push this back. It won't go back. This one won't go forward. So, real simple trick is we're just going to go ahead and trim off some of this video on the GoPro. So we're going to split the clip and then delete that front section. And now we can move this and get it more accurate, get them lined up. And I don't know any better way to do this. If you know one, stick it in the comments. But basically we're just going to zoom in and manually line those up. So get a little closer, zoom in, and we're all the way zoomed in, so we're going to get that lined up. And once again, if you're off by a hair, not going to make much difference. So now we should be fairly well lined up. A couple things we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and detach the audio from the GoPro. Again, we only need one video, and I like the Insta360 video better, or Insta360 audio better. So we're going to keep the Insta360 audio, delete the GoPro audio, and then again we're on cutaway, and we need that to be a picture-in-picture. So we'll make that a picture-in-picture. move that to the corner and get that sized up a little bit so we can see what's going on. And now we should be well aligned as we frame through it. We're coming up on the finish line. We see this finish line spot flip out behind us in both the GoPro view and the rider view. Whoops. That wasn't what we wanted. Anyway, so now we're synced up and we're pretty happy with that. Notice we don't need to do anything. We don't need to flip the GoPro. It's all right. Everything looks like it's going the same direction. So that works for me. If you have a different preference, obviously flip or don't flip as you see fit. But now we have our 2 picture-in-pictures. We got 1 audio, three views, and we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna take this, do a file, share, file, and we'll name this, again, something instructional, informative. Use the date, the session, and this one I call GoPro, picture-in-picture, because now we have our GoPro in there. Save in the right folder, and we export. And we'll see you in 3 minutes. Okay, so now we have our GoPro picture-in-picture. We pop this open. So now that we have our video, we need to add telemetry. So once again, we go and strip this stuff out. We're all done with that. And we can close iMovie. We're done with that for the time being. Now we need RaceRender. You could also use telemetry overlay. I have in the past, but I had an issue with the PC, and I found their customer service to be lacking, to put that politely. And so I've switched over to RaceRender, and that's what I currently use. Do they have better customer service? I have no idea, because I never actually had a problem with it. So anyhow, I just picked the simplest stuff, data overlay simple, because we're going to strip out everything that comes with it and put in our own stuff anyway. And we need our data file, which is going to be our RaceBox out of session 3. And then our video file is going to be our GoPro picture-in-picture. And I'm just going to pick transparent 1. Again, I'm not going to use any of their stuff, so I just take whatever they've got, and we're going to strip it all out anyway. The RaceRender logo doesn't show up if you pay for it, which I have, but you can't take it out. It will not go away. It'll say it'll go away, but it doesn't. That doesn't really matter. It doesn't show up. So we'll take all these things, strip them out. And all we're left with is our video. So if we forward up a little bit, we can see we've got all of our 3 videos incorporated. So same thing, now we have to synchronize our data with the video. And the easiest way to do that is the same way, the finish line. So we'll come over here to Project Setup. Side by side shows you data on one side, video on the other, and we just go forward. Until we get to the finish line. It's easy to skip the finish line, and I have synced up data and videos to the wrong finish line before. That's never a good thing. So take your time, and you'll get there. Okay, here we are coming up to the finish line. So we'll just step through till we get up to it. A little too far. All right, here comes our finish line. Now, we've got this blocking our view, so we just got to kind of make sure we know where it's at. We're still in front of us. And right here is basically, we're over it, right? Now we're past it. Now we're on top of it. So we select an event over here, which is going to be our first time crossing start finish line, and sync it. And now it put the data right there at that point. And now our data is synced up with our cameras. And once again, you might be a frame or two off, not going to make a bit of difference. You're really not going to notice a frame or two off, so don't get too wrapped up about it. So, okay, we've got that. We can close the wizard. We now have our data synced up. Let's add in some stuff to see. So, first one, speedometer. This is the one I like to use, this blue one. I just don't like the blue, so we'll change that. Make it a little lighter blue. And the numbers, I prefer those in black. So we'll change that to black. And I can't read that at whatever size it is. There it is, 34. So we're going to change that to about a 78. That's much nicer, easier to read. And then we can take it and move it to wherever we want it. We'll stick it right over here. Next thing I like to have on there is a track map. So let's add one of those in. I usually just use the dark. If you like a different one, use whatever you like. We'll stick this up over in the corner, but we need to make it a little bigger. Something like that. Now we can see where we are on the map. And the last thing I like to have is the lap timer. And I like this lap list one. So move it up over out of the way, make it a little bigger. Something like that. And now as we go through, we'll start getting times. We can see where we are on the map, and we can see our speed. Okay, so now that we have the gauges we want, we got our trap map, our speedometer, and our timer. Do a little preview, push the play, and this is what the finished video will look like. And this is just fine. So now we go ahead and export this. We just use this create video button. I do save the project just in case I need to go in and mess with something. So we're going to save it. Same naming convention we've been using. And this one I just call session 3 because that's what that is. Make sure we're in the right folder. We save it. And we'll start rendering. And it's going to ask us for a name. And I just put an RR for RaceRender. Then I know that now that's the full video that's got everything in it. Once again, make sure we're in the right folder, save it, and it starts rendering. It'll go through this video, and once it's finished, you'll have your output video. Okay, and that's it. Now we have our video. So we've got our, there it is, RaceRender. And it's still getting caboodled. front view, we got our rear view, rider view, lap timer, map, all good to go. So the last optional step is to trim the video. Now you could have, when you did the second picture-in-picture, that you also could have trimmed the video then too. I have had in the past where somehow I ended up cutting out my synchronization point and my data didn't work out. And quite frankly, I don't bother anymore. It's worth the extra 3 minutes to me to do one final process to cut off my ends. So that's what I do. So let's close this video. We got to get back into iMovie for that. Bring our RaceRender video in. And then you may want to, whatever you want to trim off, you know, if you don't want to see yourself riding through the paddocks, or you may want to trim out your in-lap. So just starting from about where you're about to go over the finish line for the first time. That's what we'll do here. We'll split that clip. Delete the front. Same with the back. We don't need all the paddock stuff. We don't really need the outlap. So sometime after we cross the finish line for the last time before we head out, we'll chop it off there. And now all we have is the stuff in the middle. And so we just do another file, share, file, name it something clever. Like session 3 final, and that's my final video that I'm going to make. Now if I'm uploading it to YouTube, I'll rename it something more descriptive, like High Plains Raceway, Monster Crash, or whatever it is that I want to show off. But for my own files that I want to be able to see what I've got, that's kind of the naming convention I use. And that's it, start to finish, how to take your 2 cameras and your race box and put together a 3-view video with data. Hope that's helpful.